All right, welcome back to another episode here on the McHugh Insurance Group YouTube channel. I appreciate you stopping by and checking this out. Hopefully you find some value in today's topic, which is going to be geared around quoting your business insurance, and more so in those first initial steps, talking about when you should quote your business insurance or why you should quote your business insurance and some of the factors that may play into that. Okay, so really what this comes down to is there's really two schools of thought out there that I run into on a daily basis. One being the business owner who says, hey, I've been with this agent since I started in business. It's been 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I worked with his dad, his mom, etc. And then on the other hand, you have the person who says, hey, I jump around every 2 to 3 years. In reality, both of those mentalities are totally wrong. There are one, maybe two things that as a business you need to look out for when it comes to your insurance and trying to make that decision on whether or not you're going to get quotes from another person. And so first thing I want to make clear is that your business insurance should be quoted every single year, if not at the very least every 2 years. Now, the point of today's video is to discuss by who, meaning your business insurance, like I said, should be quoted every year or two. But at what point do you decide, hey, I need to bring in somebody else, somebody different than my current agent to put together quotes for my insurance? Okay, because here's the deal. A business should not, in a perfect world, have to have another agent come in and put together proposals for them if they hired the right one the first time around. So let's dig into that. What does the right agent do? What does that process look like? And initially, what scenario does a business not have to bring in a third party to review and or quote their insurance? Simply put, if you have an insurance agent who is bringing you a market analysis every year or every 2 years, showing you that they went out, compared your current program to whatever else they have access to, what other carriers are out there, and can show you in black and white that they did their job that year, that they went out and quoted and found you the best program, whether that was the company you were already with or switching you to a different one. If you have an agent or work with a broker who is willing to do that every year or every 2 years, then in that situation, with maybe one caveat, which we'll discuss, you do not need to go out and hire or bring in another agent to try and review your program, because your agent is proving to you on a yearly basis or biannual basis that they are willing to go out and do the work for you. When we talk about the other side of things, and these are some of the bigger red flags that I see out there, and some of the things that business owners are ignorant to or they just don't pay attention to, that really should be a siren going off saying, hey, it's time to get an alternative option and see what other quotes we can bring in from somebody else. The number one thing is, as the contrary to what I already mentioned, if you have an agent who is not bringing you a market analysis on a yearly basis, an agent who is not coming in and saying, hey, here are the carriers we quoted your renewal against to see who was most competitive and here's the best option. If that's not what your renewal process looks like every year or every 2 years, then that should be your number one sign to go out and find an agent who's actually willing to earn your business that year. Because in most scenarios, the agent who doesn't go out and shop the market for you and put together a competitive analysis for you, oftentimes here's what that renewal looks like. It's a phone call or an email, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks if you're lucky, before your actual renewal date. And I'll do an entire another video on this, but why do they do that? Because if they wait until the last second and they send you over a renewal, whether you like it or not, odds are you do not have enough time to find an agent, get them the information, get quotes back, and then compare them within that 1 to 2 week window. But business owners think that getting the renewals at the 11th hour is how things should be. And if you're getting a renewal along with 5 or 6 other quotes or indications from different carriers, then that's fine because you have all of your options in front of you at that time. But if you wait to get your renewal and they didn't go out and do a market analysis for you, then at the end of the day, your hands are tied and you're stuck with that program unless you decide to quote it and leave midterm. So that's number one. If your renewal does not come with some sort of market analysis or program comparison to what else is out there, you need to start looking and going out and finding an agent to put together a program for you. Another red flag, if you're just seeing this now, and let's say you've been in business for a long time, it goes hand in hand with our first point, but if you have had the same insurance company for your business for the last 10, 20, 30 years, which, trust me, a lot of this information we can see online, the majority of businesses have, that should be another red flag that says, hey, we've been with ABC Carrier for the last 2 decades. Are you telling me that you believe in the last 10, 20 years, there hasn't been another insurance company that can compete with your current carrier? I mean, look, we live in a world with beautiful, capitalism and competitive, economy, competitive markets. Insurance is no different. The insurance industry is extremely competitive. There are years where carriers get into something heavy and they stick with it because they are doing a really good job. They're extremely competitive. And there are years where carriers decide, hey, we're going to get less aggressive on this. But if you've had the same carrier for a long time, it tells me one of 2 things. One is that you've been with the same agent for a long time and you've never compared them to whatever else may be out there, meaning you've never gotten a third party to take a look at it and give you a second opinion. Alternatively, you'll believe that agent to, no end, where you'll just take their word and you are allowing them to sit back, collect their commissions off of your renewals year in and year out because you're not putting their feet to the fire. You're not holding them accountable. You're not making sure they're continuously finding you the best program. Now look, one thing, like I said, if you have an agent that is doing the due diligence, I have no problem if in 10, 20 years, every year, every 2 years or so, that agent's come back and said, hey, this carrier, ABC Insurance Company, continues to be the most competitive. In that situation, you should have nothing to worry about, unless there are certain markets that your agent can't access. But in most cases, most agencies can access just about any market. You should be able to see the full entire spread of what's available to you. And if over time it's happened to be that company, or you've had a claims experience that was handled really well and you feel comfortable with that company and you're not paying twice what you would for somebody else, then by all means, I would not force you or encourage you to switch just for the sake of switching. But I have done this long enough. I have seen enough examples to know that the business who is with an agent for the longest time, who has had the same insurance company for the longest time, is ultimately the business that is paying too much for their insurance or has the most issues with their insurance. And it all comes back to having an agent who's hands-on, who's willing to sit down and learn about the business changes and educate you on what's going on in the insurance industry and what they can do to help you moving forward, whether that be finding you a new program or just simply, like I said, doing a market analysis for you. So I'll leave you with this. The number one thing you need to keep in mind, the length of time that you have been with your insurance agent is absolutely irrelevant when it comes down to deciding if you need to get quotes or not. When you're trying to figure out if you need to get quotes for your business insurance, you need to think about the 2 things we discussed. Number 1, are you seeing a market analysis every few years to know that your current program is in check with everybody else? And number 2, have you at some point in time, not every single year, but at some point in time, started to work with a different carrier, or have you had the same insurance company forever? It's something that will, again, I know the process may seem like it's going to take too much time. It's not going to be worth it. But if you fall into either of those 2 categories, this is something you need to seriously consider. Those are the 2 red flags that you need to look out for. Whether or not you get quotes every single year doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you bring in another agent. You should be getting quotes every year from one agent And if you're not, then maybe you do have to go out there. But in a perfect world, and this is what you should strive for when you are, and I like to put it this way, interviewing your insurance agents, whether it be your current one or new ones, you need to find out what their renewal strategy looks like. What do they do for you every single year at renewal? Are they going to email it to you 1-2 weeks before? Or are they going to sit down with you 30 to 45 days in advance and share with you their findings of which carrier might be another alternative option for you should your renewal not look great with your current insurance company? Okay? So keep an eye out for those red flags. I appreciate you checking out today's episode. Stay tuned. Make sure to like and subscribe. Share the video with anybody in your network that you think could benefit from it. And if you don't believe me, just give it a shot. Next time your renewal comes up, ask for a market analysis. Or next time your renewal comes up and you haven't seen one in years, go out and have somebody else put together a quote. Remember, like I said, businesses that have been with the same agent and the same insurance company for too long are the ones who are paying too much and have the most issues with their current insurance programs. All right, thanks for checking out today's episode. Stay tuned for more.